And it's very peculiar. I'm still trying to figure it out, but going on in the future, if I can't figure that out, it's a shame, but we did release the VODs to everyone. It's no longer just subscriber only. So there's that. I got the double thumbs up in the beautiful smile coming out from Clutter. And it looks like we're ready to go. Let's jump into this best of 5 series between these two teams. Of course, the very first map of this best of 5 series is going to be on that one and only Grand Arena. The War Game request has been sent out. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. We'll see you guys in just one hot minute. Oh my gosh, guys, you are going to be so excited.
I don't know. Okay, so I think that once they realize what this team is playing, they're going to regret their decision.
Wait. Okay, so let's reveal the information now. Do you want to?
Yeah, so apparently asbur isn't here, so they're going to have to play with Xaryu, so they're forced to play Godcomp. And I'm pretty sure Supatease, Lossa, and Jack Reacher expected them to play the Boomkin, and now they're in kind of a weird situation where I don't think Warrior Mage Paladin, or sorry, I don't think Warrior Mage Druid is particularly good against Paladin Godcomp, but we'll have to see if they can make something happen. Immediately, Jack Reacher pushing in, getting out those frostballs, trying to get some incoming damage. Lossa starting off onto Xaryu quite hard. Mageiden's going to be pushing in right away for the Ring of Frost onto Supatease, gets a deep Ring of Frost, not going to get stopped on that. Jack Reacher getting silenced up, getting bursted very hard. Supatease not going to get any follow-ups, you see, though, as he did shift into cheetah form, so Mageiden not going to be able to repoly him. Now Xaryu taking a lot of damage, down to 22%. Felorea actually bopping himself while he's in that sheep. Xaryu catching a huge shield. That was the save by the light proc as well, but Jack Reacher still in a lot of trouble. The full sheep, or sorry, the DR sheep onto Supatease, actually a little bit of a misplay by Mageiden, I think, wasting that DR. Jack Reacher getting that Iron Bark from Supatease. He's going to get topped off quite easily. And actually, right now, I think Tony from the Bronx is doing quite well in this opener.
I agree, man. Mageiden now getting cross-CC'd by those polymorphs from Jack Reacher, doing a great job controlling the outcome of this team. And Xaryu takes a whole bunch of damage from Lossa. Lossa, though, on the back foot, getting horrified by Xaryu as the full polymorph lands on to Supatease into the full Hodge. Devouring Plague coming out and everything. Lossa dipping down to 46% health here. But Jack Reacher doing a good job trying to poly up Mageiden. But now he's caught in that full fear with Supatease, and Die by the Sword is going to be forced from Lossa to reduce that damage. Mass Spell Effect as well coming out from Lossa, just trying his best to be as defensive as possible in his time of need. But now the polymorph into full clone onto Felorea as Xaryu is dipping down to 50% health here, as Lossa is just putting the pressure onto him.
Yeah, absolutely. Xaryu in a little bit of trouble, but I mean, Felorea still has his bubble as well as Trinket. Lossa actually has no defensive cooldowns left, so that is the deep freeze onto Supatease into the full sheet. The Horrify coming out on the Lossa. Supatease has to Trinket that and dispel it, as Lossa has no Trinket and no defensive cooldowns whatsoever. So now they've gotten through the Trinket of Supatease, and if they keep doing these swaps onto Lossa, these disarm Hodges onto him, it's going to be really, really scary for this Warrior Mage Druid. Xaryu, like I said, still has all his defensive cooldowns ready to go. Caught into the full Stormbolt. Felorea actually going to blow his Avenging Wrath to top off Xaryu, who still has really everything, like I said, including Save by the Light. Lossa actually using that Avatar. They're trying to make something happen. Mageiden pushing in for the Deep Sheep. Needs to get stopped on it. They're actually swapping over onto Supatease. The full Hodge onto him. Down to 40% HP. The Barkskin coming out. Disarm as well as Silence. Overlap. Rallying Cry coming out. And he's just he's gonna die. He actually Barkskin's so early there. It didn't matter. There was even a little bit of overlap, but just so much damage incoming from Xaryu and Mageiden that they were able to kill him through it.
This is very, very peculiar, man. I mean, both of these teams kind of didn't necessarily know what it is they're going to be facing here. And that was a very, very interesting first game. I'm excited to see what's going to happen next. But looks like asbur not being available actually worked to their advantage in the very first game of this best of 5 series. But I'm interested to see what Tony from the Bronx is going to be doing out of this.
I almost guarantee you that they didn't want to play that matchup. They're playing Mage to fight against the Boomkin team, and now that they've realized they're playing Godcomp, they're probably going to go back on the Enhancement Shaman. I think it's a great matchup for them. Turbo Cleave against Godcomp, so If they do that, I think they'll have a great shot at coming back potentially.
Yeah. So let me just give you guys a quick insight on exactly what's going on right now. So it looked like Tony from the Bronx, like you said, Ven, was trying to adapt to being able to face this Boomkin, but that Boomkin not being available, they faced him into Warrior, Mage, Druid. Now it looks like Tony from the Bronx, they had a few compositions up their sleeve that they're going to try to compete with this Mage Boomkin team, and now with facing RMPally Godcomp, there's definitely a wrench thrown in the gears in their strategy. So I'm really interested to see what composition is going to be coming out from Tony from the Bronx. And if you guys aren't familiar with Tony Styles, he is an altaholic. He plays an enhancement shaman. He got known on his hunter. He plays a hunter enhancement shaman, and now apparently a mage as well. So very, very interesting. I like the different compositions coming out from them. I like that versatility, but it's definitely a mind game, I think, at this point. It's interesting. What composition, knowing the tools that Tony from the Bronx has shown so far, do you think that they're going to be pulling out? Are they going to be bringing out like a turbo against this RMPally Godcomp?
I think so. I mean, I think it's a pretty good matchup.
Interesting.
I know if the Godcomp has a Druid, they have a very, very good shot at winning. Maybe the Paladin makes it really difficult for them, so they might try the Mage again. I'm not entirely sure, but I think their best bet is to probably go with that Turbo Cleave. It's what they're most experienced on.
All right, these guys are going to take a quick minute, and during this minute, I'm just going to take my opportunity to shout out all the people that are helping us out so much. During the previous games, we did get a couple donations. We got another $4.20 donation from Free Wreckful, and it doesn't say Wreckful Defense Initiative. Instead, it says No Freedom, No Peace. So Free Wreckful, thank you so much, man, for that donation again. Your message is pretty deep. There it is. But we also got a $10 donation from Cookie, and he says, Scouts Honor, exclamation point. Thank you so much, man, for that $10 donation. We are $83 towards our goal. Thank you so much, man. And every dollar that we receive in our donations goes directly towards future tournament prize pools. But I don't actually have any more time to continue talking about this because the games are ready.
It's time to go. Woo! I wonder what map they're going to choose.
They actually chose Tiger's Peak.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I think if they're playing Turbo, they'll end up choosing Dalaran, Sewers, but maybe not.
Tiger's Peak coming out from this team. Just going to have to wait just a few minutes because it did time out. Sending out that invite with not both people having lead. That's my mistake, but thank you so much, everybody, for the donations and the subscribers. We're getting a whole bunch of subscribers. We are only one subscriber away from meeting our goal for the week, and unfortunately, we aren't going to have that EU tournament this week because we did not have enough signups. But I know that there's some EU people watching tonight. What's going on, guys? But I'm going to ask this of you guys. Help me on the EU side convince and motivate these players to come and compete to GCD. Now, I've talked to a lot of players on EU before, and a lot of players have shown their interest and shown their motivation to come and compete, but they, for whatever reason, didn't. So let's go ahead and try to hype up that EU tournament. We're going to be trying to, once again, get that EU tournament going on Saturday and Sunday next week, but I guess I'll take this quick moment now to say that, unfortunately, we aren't. Actually, no, I'm going to hold on to that. I'm not going to say it just yet. For some reason, only one team is getting the Wargame request. I'm not sure why.
Weird.
Weird.
Love you always holding off on the goods, the information.
Yeah, I'm not sharing it just yet. I'm going to let you guys, I'm going to hold on to it.
Oh, I just want to know so bad.
But we are also, next week, we have some plans on increasing our production quality, so that's going to be really cool. Ooh,
that is cool. It's exciting.
Some people are going to be working on some graphics and new promotional videos, stuff along those lines. And like I've mentioned many times in my forum posts, we also are working on creating a league of some sort. So that's going to be, that information is going to be released soon as well. But we're just waiting on this glitch to subside. And there it goes. The double war game request is going out, guys. Here we go. Soon we'll be jumping into these games. And this is a best of 5 series on Tiger's Peak. And the next map, I should say, is Tiger's Peak. But I'll see you guys in just a few seconds here. See you in the game. Alright guys, welcome to Tiger's Peak. This is the second game of this best of 5 series between this Turbo and now RMPally Godcomp. Now he is playing Turbo, so let me just go ahead and take this, let me make this Turbo Druid. So relaying that message over to for mecah that they did change their composition up. And so now we have that Turbo going up against the RMPally Godcomp, and like you said, Ven, this is probably a better bet than Warrior Mage Druid than going up against RMPally Godcomp. So it's going to be an interesting game, and we've seen in the past this Turbo, and they've done very, very well. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen here. But right away, Mageiden coming out of that invisibility, and it looks like he's just trying to gain icicles for now. Lossa pushing in, and the Stormbolt going out onto Xaryu. Felorea, though, not caught in any CC just yet. The Horrify actually going out onto Tony Jr. They're getting offensive on that. That's going to force the Shaman range as Supa was caught into that ring.
Yeah, the Master Fleck coming out to try to avoid the incoming polymorph, but he's just going to get feared up anyways. Tony Jr. still in a little bit of trouble, 30% HP. Supatease is going to throw that NS onto him, throwing out the Trents as well. Tony Jr. should be absolutely fine. Even though he's still relatively low, there's going to be no follow-up CC on the Supatease, and he's going to get topped off. And I think this is going to be one of those games that both teams plays well that is going to take deep, deep dampening to actually finish. One thing to note about this Godcomp is they don't have cross CC for Hex. So Tony's going to be he's going to be able to actually Hex Mageiden, and there's going to be no Druid to dispel it. So they have that advantage in a sense. Supatease getting Deep Freeze full Ring of Frosted there. Tony actually getting full Hodged up. He has no Shaman Rage available for another 9 seconds. Supatease getting DR polymorphed out of that. Let's see if there's any follow-up. The full Fear as well as the silence on a Tony Jr. Tony Jr. in a little bit of trouble here. Here comes the Ice Nobles from Mageiden. Ironbark coming out though. And with that Ironbark, I don't think they're going to be able to force the Shaman wall. Supatease also blowing that Nature's Vigil to empower his Hots a little bit. Mageiden, the target of choice, getting trained down by Tony and Lossa at the moment. Felorea blowing his wings. Mageiden did get dipped down quite hard there, but with that Avenging Wrath, he's going to be able to top him off.
There's the Hex going out, like you said, and Mageiden actually choosing to block offensively. Supatease now being put into that full polymorph, and the Shaman Rage actually coming out from Tony Jr. So forcing a bit of cooldowns here as Tony Jr. is still dipping down to about 30% health here, but he's going to be healing himself up there while Supatease was caught into that CC. Now into the full Fear, and Shaman Rage only has a few seconds. Maybe Tony Jr. could go down here, but the defensive Fear coming out from Lossa is going to keep his enhancement Shaman A-okay. And like you said, man, I think that both of these teams being as good as they are going to bring this game to dampening. That's when you're really going to see the advantages coming in. Xaryu putting that DR Cyclone. Mageiden now the target of choice from this Turbo, chunking him down a bit and really controlling the game. Switching that damage over to Xaryu, dipping down to about 40% health here, but Felorea still not caught into any CC just yet. The Horrify goes out into Tony Jr. He doesn't have Shaman Range available to him, but Supatease sees him being in trouble as the Horrify goes out, gets that Ironbark on him, but is it going to be enough? The silence onto Supatease, and Tony Jr. is still defensive here. Mass Bellaflight coming out from Lossa, trying to prevent CC and damage onto Tony Jr. Tony Jr. is going to land that Hex on Mageiden, and he's stabilizing for now. Just both teams just trading blow for blow, but so far everyone's okay.
I think Supatease actually fat-fingered Barkskin there, so if they can notice that and capitalize on it, Supatease has no Hots on himself. If they can catch him in a stun, they can actually kill him with cross CC onto Tony Jr., who has no trinket for another couple seconds. It's going to be up to Tony with that trinket to save Supatease if they decide to go for that. Actually, there it is, the Deep Freeze onto Supatease, the DR Hodge coming out. He is in bear form, though, with Vigil up. Tony Jr. getting polymorphed up. It does break, and that swap proving a little bit ineffective on the Supatease as he was in bear form. The Trent coming out, and he's going to be completely fine. Looks like they're going to be switching back on over to Tony Jr. Mageiden blowing that Icy Veins. He wants to get offensive, getting bashed up by Supatease, forcing that blink, and now he's not going to have that to position himself in a way to get CC, unfortunately. Tony Jr. taking a little damage. Supatease deciding to Ironbark him to make him extra tanky. Felorea getting cloned up by Supatease. Supatease actually getting feared in the meantime, but Tony Jr. just line of sighting, completely fine at the moment. Supatease getting swapped too, gets a Deep Freeze, the Comet Storm coming in. If they can get any follow-up, he might be in trouble, still in caster form, gets disarmed, has that Barkskin up. The silence as well. Tony Jr. spamming out those heals though. The DR Hodge. Supatease is in bear with some Trents out, so I think he's going to manage to get by, but they did manage to get the Barkskin. Mageiden in a lot of trouble. The Save by the Light proc on him, down to 24% HP. He does have one Ice Block available. The clone coming out from Supatease on Felorea. Xaryu also taking a lot of damage. 18% HP. Having used that disperse. Mageiden having to block as well. Tony from the Bronx has all the momentum right now. Felorea having used his trinket there. He does have Bubble available. Avenging Wrath coming up as well, but that was dispersed. Burst as well as Ice Block. Mageiden having another Ice Block coming up in around 23 seconds, but Xaryu has nothing left for quite some time.
Yeah, Mageiden still taking a lot of damage. Felorea forced to use that wings, trying to keep him offensive. The Hand of Sacrifice even going out, and it's still hanging out as Tony's spamming that Purge. Just can't get it off of Mageiden for whatever reason. But there's the Horrify going out on to, I'm not sure whom, but Lossa is going to catch that Iron Bark from Supatease, and Tony from the Bronx is completely fine at the moment. Supatease doesn't have a trinket, though. He did recently just trinket, so Tony from the Bronx could potentially be vulnerable to a swap here. But like you said, man, no disperse going out on Xaryu and a block being forced on Mageiden. That was great offensive pressure. Now we're in dampening a bit here. Maybe the Turbo can make something happen. The full Hex goes out onto Mageiden. He's going to trinket out of that. Xaryu taking a bit of pressure from Tony and Lossa. The deep freeze onto Supa. Mageiden trying to get that polymorph. He gets sheared on the polymorph, and Supa gets out of that deep freeze in time to avoid the ring. Nice job by Supatease staying out of that CC. Felorea now getting bashed up, and it looks like Tony from the Bronx doing a great job, but there's the Horrify onto Lossa. Supatease going for that bash, but he's currently not caught in any CC, and this team, this Turbo, is doing a great job avoiding the CC as much as possible, and now 4% dampening. Their advantage is growing more and more.
Yeah, I think if this Godcomp is going to make a target swap on the Lossa, they need to make sure that they're getting cross CC on the Tony Jr. when Supatease is getting CC, because if that enhancement Shaman can heal Lossa, there's almost no chance that he dies, in my mind. Mageiden taking a lot of damage, getting the sack from Felorea. Save of the Light's already proc. This could be another Ice Block coming out from him at 30% HP. Sacrifice is up from Felorea, preventing a little bit of incoming damage. Felorea actually going to blow that Avenging Wrath. Mageiden doing the dip, using Blazing Speed to get as far away as possible. Tony Jr. looks to be the target of choice once again. Supatease notices, gets as many hots as possible, pre-Iron Barking the Polymorph with those Vigil hots. Well done by him. Tony Jr. is going to be completely fine, probably not even going to have to use that Shaman wall, and Supatease doing an excellent job shutting down that swap when he noticed the incoming CC as well as damage. Mageiden using that Icy Veins at the moment, trying to get some pressure going. It's going to get purged off, though, by Tony Jr. He doesn't have that offensive cooldown anymore available to him. He's still at 50% HP. He's completely immune from spell stealing. His mana will slowly come back, but he's not going to be able to dispel those hots for quite some time. Felorea not caught into any CC at the moment. Mageiden actually pushing in, trying to get the full Ring of Frost, but Supatease is in bear form, and Tony Jr. and Lossa on his back, not letting Mageiden get any CC, and now Mageiden's hexed up. The bash onto Felorea. Mageiden's still in a little bit of trouble. Saved by the Light procking once again. Felorea trying to do everything he can to top him off. The Word of Glory coming out, the Aura Mastery, Holy Light, Flash of Light, everything possible. He doesn't have the wings up, though, so his heals aren't super powerful. Mageiden actually getting cloned up by Supatease. He does have a trinket available of it. He's deciding to sit it for now. Doesn't look like there's going to be any follow-up CC on the Felorea, but Xaryu, the target of choice, down to 30% HP, actually having to use that Disperse right away, and now he has no trinket, no Disperse. Felorea trying so hard to get the heals out. He has to play catch-up, blowing those wings. Avenging Wrath is up, so he might be able to top off his team here, but Xaryu's still in a lot of trouble. No Save of the Light, no Dispersion available to him. Mageiden almost has 2 Ice Blocks back up, so I think if they can get a lot of damage onto Xaryu, he might be the better kill target. Supatease actually getting Deep Freeze, Ring of Frost. Tony Jr. caught into that Hodge Silence. He has Shaman up, but is it going to be enough? The DR Polymorph going out on the Supatease. He does have Trinket available, but he is putting a lot of faith into that Shaman wall. Gets feared, and the Tremor comes out from Tony Jr. Going to break that. Supatease actually going to throw out all his Trents. Top off to Tony Jr. Pushing in offensively to bash up Felorea. They're trying to get something going, I think, on the Felorea. Felorea is actually the target of choice at the moment. Lossa and Tony Jr. both on his back. Mageiden and Xaryu coming back, trying desperately to get out the peels. Mageiden getting his polymorph reflected there. Does get dispelled. I think he actually trinketed it. Felorea now into the stun. Saved by the Light is already procced. He's trying everything he can to get away. The Freedom coming out. Lossa right on his back, though. He has the wall up. They're not letting him cast. He's trying to get the fake cast out, but it's so hard with a Warrior and Enhancement Shaman on his back, and that's going to be his bubble, slowly forcing all Felorea's cooldowns by targeting him. And if they can keep this up, they have a lot of momentum right now. Xaryu actually the target of choice. Supatease in a full polymorph, though. Tony Jr. doesn't have a Shaman wall available. It just came up, but Supatease is going to throw out that NS. He's going to be able to top off Tony Jr. Xaryu taking a lot of damage. Felorea deciding to bop him, but he's going to get offensively cloned by Supatease. So Felorea not going to be able to make too much use out of that. Mageiden at 50% HP, Xaryu at 30% HP, Felorea doing everything he can, playing catch-up, blowing the Avenging Wrath. This could be his saving grace to finally top off his team, but Supatease noticing that, pushing it for the Bash Cyclone. Mageiden trying to deny him, putting him into the full Deep Freeze Ring of Frost, and now Tony Jr. is in a little bit of trouble. Supatease has no Trinket, he blows that Shaman wall, but they're keeping the pressure going. Mageiden in a little bit of trouble, as well as Xaryu. Felorea's wings are going to fade, and if we look, this is almost 30% dampening, and Felorea is at 20% mana.
Yeah, man. I mean, Felorea is having a really rough time healing both of these DPS, and Xaryu and Mageiden are both taking the pressure from this turbo. They're just swapping to whoever's more convenient to them, and without being able to swap that Beacon of Light fast enough, Felorea's mana is costing him, and now he's actually going to get Storm Bolted up. Zaryu's forced into that Dispersion, and that's the full ring onto Supatease, though. Tony Jr. might be in a little bit of trouble caught into this full Hodge, but this turbo is just relentless. The double fear on both the DPS, and Tony's completely fine. But now Supatease putting that full fear rallying cry coming out. Tony could be in a little bit of trouble. He doesn't have Shaman range for a little bit longer, and he's at 30% healthier. The rallying cry is gonna fall off. The triple DR polymorph lands onto Supatease. Can Tony survive? 15% healthier. The double death comes in. Even the denounce from Felorea, and against all odds, this Holy Pally Godcomp at no health and no mana is gonna land a kill on Tony Jr.
Yeah,
wow.
They were about to lose. I mean, they had to get a kill there. Supatease somehow got out of that CC and topped him off. I mean, Felorea was completely tapped. Mageiden low, Xaryu low. That was a really close game. Really, really, really close game. But they managed to keep their calm and land the kill onto Tony Jr.
Wow. Unbelievable game, man, coming out for this team. I'm not sure if I have a replay. No! The replay glitched out. It's been doing that lately ever since I updated the program. But that was an unbelievable game, man. Holy crow. This is still a best-of-5 series, guys. So Tony from the Bronx's team, they're not out yet. They're still in it to win it here, guys. They could bring it back 3-0. They really could. But here we go. We're going to go ahead and jump into the very next series of this best-of-5. And the map requested by Tony from the Bronx, they're going to bring it to Tolvaron Arena. I'll see you in that map in just one hot minute. Eventually. There we go. Alright, guys, it looks like one of these teams do need a quick break after that intense match. They're just going to go and grab something to drink, I guess. But they're going to be ready in just one short minute. They only have that certain amount of time that they can delay it. But as soon as they come back, we'll be jumping into this next series very, very soon here. But wow, what a close game. I mean, the very first game, there was an obvious composition advantage coming out from for mecah, and then the second game, though, that was intense, man. At 30% dampening, everyone on their team is dying. Felorea is out of mana. The turbo, though, still they lost. The setup, they just couldn't heal through it. Eventually, this Holy Pally Godcomp just wore through Shaman Wage, wore through those Iron Barks, and they couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, like you said, they slowly worked through their cooldowns, and by the grace of God, they somehow managed to get a kill at the end. That was a very close game. Like I said, if Tony somehow survived there, they were going to be in a very good position to actually win that game. They had gotten almost every single cooldown out of the Godcomp, but I ended up losing. So maybe they have to be a little bit more careful. I'm not exactly sure, but I think one thing's for sure, we can expect to see a long game coming up. And I wonder what map they're going to decide to choose.
They actually told me. Do you want me to tell you?
Tolvaron?
Yeah, Tolvaron.
Yeah, it feels like they want the bigger map.
Yeah.
Makes it a little bit easier for Supatease to get away from Xaryu's fears. It's a little bit more annoying for him to push in and actually land that fear onto him.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm excited to see, man. I'm excited to see what's going to happen here. I mean, it felt like Tony from the Bronx's team had all the advantage in the world, and it's very possible for them to literally win 3 games in a row here on out. I mean, it's going to be a very tough win for this Holy Pally Godcomp to nab from them, and I don't know. I think if this turbo plays correctly, they might not be able to, but It's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see.
Let's see. I mean, last game was pretty terrible for them, but they somehow managed to win.
Yeah.
I think it can go either way.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see.
This is the semifinal, guys. Just a reminder, the winner of this series is going to go to the finals of tournament number 14. And it looks like both teams are finally ready. So we're going to jump into this next series, or this next map, I should say, which is, like we said earlier, Tolvaron Arena. All right, here we go. Alright, so welcome to Tolvaron Arena, everybody. This is the map chosen by Tony from the Bronx. They are currently down 0-2 versus mecah, the previous tournament champions. But they're definitely fighting for it, so it's going to be an interesting match for sure. I'm excited to see what's going to go down, but I don't know. On a map like this, I definitely think this Turbo is feeling a lot more comfortable. So.
Yeah, like we were saying, they need the big maps. It makes it more difficult for Xaryu to actually push in. Lossa is going to be snaring him up as much as possible, so he's not going to be able to follow up all the deep sheeps coming out of Mageiden, and gives Supatease just a lot of room to kite in general. But I think we're going to see the same strategy coming out of this Turbo, basically hitting whatever they can, trying to shut down CC, doing everything they can to survive, and eventually landing lucky crits and CC chains, and slowly wearing through this team's cooldowns.
Yep, the gates have opened, and right away, both teams trying to find a good spot to position. Lossa charging in, jumping right onto Xaryu right away. Lossa getting dotted up from this team for mecah. Defensive stance being forced out of Lossa here. Tony Jr. now taking a bit of pressure. He's going for that Hex once again onto Mageiden. Not having that decurse, it's a very nice ability to have, but both teams playing very, very cautious. There's the Blink Deep Freeze coming out from Mageiden. He's going to get stopped on that ring, but the full poly lands onto Supatease. The Horrify goes out onto Tony Jr., but he's just self-healing himself, and he's going to be completely fine through that full polymorph.
Yeah, Lossa was able to stop the follow-up CC, and Supatease just needs a second to get a few hots on the Tony Jr., who was LOSing, denying that opener. Mage didn't actually use his Icy Vans as well as his on-use trinket there, and they weren't really able to force anything on the Tony Jr., so not an ideal opener. Mageiden taking a little bit of damage, just standing in the open, spamming out those polymorphs and frost bolts. The deep freeze going out onto Supatease, Hodge on Tony Jr. Lossa actually trinkets to stop the follow-up CC onto Supatease. So well done by Lossa, rotating his trinket to make sure Supatease stays out of that CC for as long as possible. Tony Jr. actually using a Shaman, I think a little bit early there. He didn't necessarily need to. Supatease didn't get CC'd. He had the Vigil Hots, but I guess he's deciding to play a little bit safe. It does have a very short cooldown, so it's going to be up in another 36 seconds.
Yeah, this Turbo's putting on the pressure, though, man. I mean, look at Mageiden's health. Even though that he seems to be completely fine, he has those double blocks, even bubble available for Felorea. Mageiden, though, even the Save by the Light being procced at this point. But, I mean, I feel like this team's doing a good job avoiding CC. But as I say that, the Deep Freeze ring lands onto Supatease. The Horrify Hodge onto Lossa. His health is dipping back and forth. He uses that Enrage regen, but he's still at 50% health here. He is in that defensive stance, but is it going to matter? He gets ringed up. Even Ironbark coming out. Nature Swiftness as well. And Lossa's still at 40% health here.
Yeah, this is Enrage regeneration as well as the Die by the Sword. So if they can keep making these swaps on Lossa, they can maybe force out Supatease's trinket. He still has that available to him. But that was scary for Lossa. I mean, like you said, he had to use Enrage regeneration as well as his Die by the Sword and barely lived at like 10% HP. He still has Rallying Cry available to him. They did an excellent job doing the cross CC onto Tony Jr., which I think is going to be very important if they want to land a kill onto Lossa. If Tony Jr. is not CC'd, he's going to be almost as effective as a healer for keeping Lossa's health up. Mageiden using that blazing speed to push in. The Deep Freeze, Ring of Frost going out onto Supatease. Tony Jr. now the target of choice. Shaman coming out of him right away, but he's taking a lot of damage. 40% HP, catches a big heal on himself. He does have some hots. Supatease not having to use his trinket there. Only the Shaman coming out of Tony Jr. That's not what they wanted, but I mean, I guess they're slowly working through this Turbo Cleave's cooldowns. And I don't know. They're trying to make something happen on Xaryu right now. He's at 40% HP, but Felorea is just sitting back as far as possible. The Stormbolt going on to him, but he catches a huge heal on Xaryu before going into that CC. And now there's going to be no follow-up, and he can just spam out as many kills as he wants, playing max range away from this Turbo Cleave, keeping his team topped off. And until dampening, it really feels like it's the Godcomp's game to lose.
You know, the positioning coming out from this Godcomp, I like it a lot. But there's the Deep Freeze Horrify onto Tony Jr. once again. Supatease having to Trinket and get that Nature Swiftness Ironbark out onto Tony Jr. And it looks like Tony Jr. is going to be completely fine through that setup. But what I was going to say earlier to that is the positioning from this Godcomp. If they want to go on Xaryu, they have to push in very, very far. And Felorea is easily able to predict who they're going on. So that beacon is being swapped well. And you can see it in the mana. Felorea's mana is doing a lot better this game as it was last game. He doesn't have to go for a drink at all, but as I'm saying, that Lossa looks like he's going to be the target of choice coming out from that RMPally Godcomp, dipping it relatively low, but now Tony Jr. once again is going to be, but Mageiden, he needs to get the CC off, and he knows it. He's trying to find Supatease. Supatease even shadow melding, trying to get away from Mageiden as best he can. He doesn't want to get set up here, but Mageiden's going to blink in, get that Deep Freeze. Horrify goes on to Tony Jr. The setup is here and now, and Tony Jr. does have that Shaman range available to him, but the damage just wasn't there, and Tony Jr. is completely fine through another one of their setups.
Yeah, Supatease is in bear form, and Lossa actually came back and denied Mageiden's Deep Sheep, so Supatease actually didn't really get CC'd up there at all, aside from the Deep Freeze, and because of that, they weren't really able to force anything onto Tony Jr. The Turbo Cleave playing ultra conservative. The fear, though, on the Supatease, Ironbark preemptively used onto Tony Jr. to deny some of that damage. Mageiden taking a lot of damage, though. This Turbo Cleave finally getting something going. The Deep Freeze Ring of Frost coming out from Mageiden, but gets denied by Tony Jr., shocks him up. Mageiden actually getting his Polymorph reflected as well, and both Xaryu and Mageiden are in a little bit of trouble. Felorea does have his wings available if he feels like he needs them, but his teammates are dipping down so low, spamming with those Word of Glories, actually get shocked, and this could be Xaryu's dispersed because of that. Save by the Light Procs on him. He has power with shield up, the Stormbolt onto Felorea to follow it up. Xaryu 30% HP. Felorea deciding to use those wings to give Xaryu a huge heal. Mageiden caught into that Hex. Mageiden actually has both Ice Blocks available at the moment. He decides to go offensive, though, pushing in for that Deep Sheep onto Supatease. The Disarm onto Tony Jr. This Godcomp's turning it around. Tony Jr. in a little bit of trouble, actually using Trinket as well as Shaman Rage to get away. Supatease has his Trinket available again, and they're going to survive this swap. They'll probably survive the next as well with Supatease's Trinket, but if they can keep rotating through these cooldowns, eventually they won't have anything, and they'll be able to land a kill.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams being blow for blow. This RMPally Godcomp team does a great job at getting those setups even when the pressure is on. Felorea looking for that drink. He's going to nab some of it. Xaryu into that Stormbolt. Mageiden now dipping down to 20% health here. Saved by the Light is going to proc once again. An execution sentence is going to be forced out from Felorea. But looks like we're in dampening at 6% here, and this consistent pressure from this Turbo is going to start getting scary for this RMPally Godcomp as Xaryu is taking the brunt of the damage. But there's the Horrify setup onto Tony Jr. The full poly lands, Ironbark being used right before it, though, so Tony Jr. should potentially be okay, but the full Hodge lands on top of that. He can't heal himself. Even the Denounce is coming in from Felorea. They want to get offensive. They want to set up onto Tony Jr., but he's just so tanky and has such good off heals. Supatease at 93% health here, but he's going to get fully feared. Lossa in that full polymorph. Tony Jr. could be in trouble. He has that Shaman range available to him, but he's at 90% health here. Supatease coming out of that CC at this point, and Tony Jr. is just at full health, and has 10% dampening at this point, and the Turbo's once again getting offensive.
I don't know if Supatease went for a drink or what, but he was literally at 100% mana at one point, so I don't know how that happened, but Supatease actually getting Deep Freeze Ring of Frosted there. Tony Jr. having to use the Shaman in response once again. The same CC chains coming out. The fear, though, on the Supatease with the silence on a Tony Jr. He's not going to be able to get that tremor out, and because of that, Supatease is going to have to Trinket NNS. So this is what they want. Now they're in a position where Supatease has no Trinket, and Tony has no Trinket, as well as no Shaman Rage. So the next swap onto him could be a nightmare for them to deal with. Supatease using that Ironbark to try to top off Tony for the meantime. Meanwhile, Xaryu taking a little bit of damage. Mageiden also taking a little bit of damage, but Felorea's wings still up. He's going to be able to top off his team before they fade, and that's exactly what they want. Now Lossa caught into the full sheep. Supatease caught into the full deep sheep. Tony Jr., a lot of trouble here. Felorea just spamming out the Denounce over and over. This is their time to kill. If they could ever get a kill, this is going to be it. Tony Jr. getting the Master Reflect from Lossa, going to be running away as far as possible, throwing those heals on himself. Supatease coming back, though, giving him a huge heal, pops that Nature's Vigil to empower his HOTS, and Tony Jr. is going to be completely fine. He has a Shaman Rage coming up another minute. Rex Storm coming out of Lossa. Xaryu taking a lot of damage right now. Felorea actually able to spam out those heals over and over onto him, not getting shocked up. Just trying to fake it, though. And now Mageiden under a lot of pressure, down to 20% HP. Save with the Light procs onto him. They need to try to turn it around by getting Supatease into CC. but they're just on the back foot completely right now. The sack actually coming out from Felorea onto Mageiden. Mageiden trying to push in for that Deep Freeze Ring of Frost. Gets storm bolted up. Tony Jr. is going to be completely fine. No CC onto Supatease. Excellent job by Lossa stopping Mageiden from actually going in for that Deep Sheet. Felorea down to 40% HP. Mageiden dies without blocking. He had every cooldown available to him. Every cooldown available. And Tony from the Bronx is going to get their first win. Coming back.
Coming back. That is right. Tony from the Bronx is going to take their very first win on this best of 5 series. But can they do it twice in a row? Can they make that happen twice in a row? I mean, looking at this situation, if you want to I'm watching the replay right now, looking at Mageiden actually getting chunked there and going to go down. But as you said, Ven, he had every button. He had every button in his spell book. So another win for Tony from the Bronx, but I mean, if we were in that scenario once again, he definitely would be able to live. So, it is going to be the map choice coming out from for mecah, though. Are they going to bring it to, like, Ruins? Are they going to make it so Supatease can't get away ever?
I don't know. They're probably going to want to use those smaller maps, like we said, so they can get that fall-off CC. Might even be worse as Xaryu using the short silence glyph, so we can get consistent silences onto Tony. So if they can Hodge, silence, or Hodge, disarm Tony at the same time the Deep Sheet Fear, that's a lot of pressure coming out. And if they can consistently land that, it's going to be really hard for Tony to actually survive. And we might see a game that goes quicker than 40% dampening. Yeah,
I'd be willing to bet it is, because the map that is being chosen for mecah is going to be Ruins of Lordaeron. See you guys in just a minute. Alright, everybody. Where are you? There we are. Welcome to Ruins of Lordaeron. This is Tony from the Bronx versus for mecah in a best of 5 series in the semifinals of tournament number 14 here, guys. I'm excited to see what's going to happen between these two teams. Tony from the Bronx coming back with that 1 win, but they need 2 more if they want to go to the finals through the winner's bracket. For mecah, though, I don't know. It was definitely a mistake for Mageiden not to block, but is it going to be enough? Right away, Xaryu's going to get charged up by Lossa. Tony Jr. is going to be the kill target once again. The bash goes out on a Xaryu. He's going to get typhooned out of LOS of Felorea. Felorea now being forced to push in here to heal up Xaryu, and Xaryu dipping down to 30% health here. Save of the Light going to proc. Felorea actually can't heal him through this, and Disperse is going to be forced right away in the very first 15 seconds of the game, or 30 seconds of the game. Unbelievable. Then the Fear goes out. The DR Cyclone goes out into Felorea. Now Mageiden taking some damage. Xaryu now out of that Disperse. He's taking a bit of damage at 50% health here. The Stormbolt going out into Felorea as well. And this Turbo is turning on the heat right away as this game starts.
Yeah, absolutely. Xaryu's still not out of the woods yet, getting the bop from Felorea. He has his Avenging Wrath up right now, finally able to top off Xaryu. But that was all the cooldowns coming out of the Turbo Cleave. They wanted to be aggressive in that opener. Actually, Tony Jr. still has his Ascendants ready to go, so if they can land another CC's chain onto Felorea, they might be able to make something happen onto Xaryu. Felorea still has all his cooldowns, though. The full bash onto Felorea. Supatease getting silenced up on the Cyclone by Xaryu. Well done by him, preventing that incoming CC chain. Mageiden getting hexed, though. Xaryu into the full Stormbolt. Felorea trying to get those halves off, but he actually gets locked out. Now Xaryu's in a lot of trouble. The sacrifice going out onto Xaryu, and this Godcomp's completely on the back foot. Finally, Mageiden pushing in, getting the Deep Sheath, the disarm onto Tony Jr. This is what they need. They need to turn the damage around, the pressure around. Supatease and Tony actually trinket at the same time, so a little bit of an overlap there. And with that swap, they're actually able to work through, like we said, both Tony Jr. as well as Supatease's trinket. Tony Jr. will have his Strom Rage up in another 9 seconds, so the next CC chain onto Supatease, he will have that ready to go. But they're like the last game, they're just slowly working through these cooldowns. Mageiden on the back foot, though, taking a lot of damage. Felorea still able to spam out those heals, doing his best. They're actually switching over on a Supatease. He does get that Bark skin up. He has some Trents up as well. Tony Jr. has the Iron Bark right now, and Supatease is going to be completely fine. But now, they actually didn't dump too much damage into Supatease. He could be in a lot of trouble. Xaryu, though, on the back foot, 30% HP. He has nothing. No Disperse for another 13 seconds. Save of the Light coming out on him. Another bomb coming out from Felorea. It's going to get purged instantly. The Fear onto Felorea as well. Felorea already used his trinket. He has Avenging Wrath up. He's going to be able to hopefully top off Xaryu with that, but That was enough to get Xaryu to his next disperse, which is ready to go. Supatease knows he's in trouble, though. He has no Barkskin and no Trinket. He's just in cat form. He knows they want to swap onto him, just delaying it as much as possible. He needs to get full hots on himself. Tony Jr. doing an excellent job, just spamming out those heals. Supatease knows he's in big trouble if he doesn't have that Barkskin, which is up in another 10 seconds. So he's just sitting in cat form. And this Godcomp can't do enough pressure to force him out, which is pretty incredible. He's been in cat form for like the last 30 seconds, coming out, throwing out all those trends immediately into the deep freeze. He has that Barskin ready to go, though, so patient pays off. He might actually die, gets into the bear form. He has all his trends out. If he dies here, I will be amazed. The rallying cry coming out. Ironbark as well as the NS. He's surely going to be able to survive, but that was a close call despite being so patient. Mage didn't actually force into that ice block. Xaryu taking a lot of damage. Felorea into the full cyclone at the moment. Beautifully done by Supatease. The bash onto Felorea. Now Xaryu in a lot of trouble. Dies with that dispersing once again. Not using their cooldowns. They have so many cooldowns ready to go, and they just don't expect the incoming burst. I'm not sure what, but Tony from the Bronx tying it up 2-2.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. Once again, Tony from the Bronx pulling out another win against Formica. And now we are tied up here in the semifinals. The next game is going to determine who's going to the finals. Unbelievable, man. Crazy. Now, that swap over onto Supatease as soon as he came out of cat form was pretty incredible, but something to note for that swap, that setup, is that both Mageiden and Xaryu were building up their orbs, building up their icicles, and getting ready for that swap, so that was all their damage, and that was all their damage and cooldowns efficiently traded for all of the defensive cooldowns from Tony from the Bronx, but unbelievable. Here we go, guys. We're going to be going into the very last game of this best of 5 series here. Turbo versus RMPally Godcomp. It is once again Formica's.
Blades Edge.
And they're going to bring it to Blades Edge Arena. Interesting.
Huh.
What do you think about that, man?
I think it's going to be hard for Supatease to get away. So they could make a lot of swaps onto him. He's going to be forced to play in the open, and it's going to be easy for the Paladin to push in for the Hodge, easy to get deep freeze sheeps. But I think this is another one of those maps where there's not too many pillars, so both teams going to have a lot more pressure, like we saw in Runes of Lordaeron. It's going to be a similar playstyle to that.
All right, here we go. We're going to jump right into the game, man. Yeah, welcome to Blades Edge Arena. It is once again that Turbo Cleave going up against that RMPally Godcomp. 2-2 here in the semifinals. Oh man, this has been an exciting series so far. Unbelievable turnout of events. Formica taking a convincing first win, and then the second win though was very close. Now Tony from the Bronx though is using that crazy consistent pressure, and they're just gonna take some kills without any defensive cooldowns here. So Formica, I hope that doesn't have any effects on them, like emotionally. I hope that they go into this game focused and clear-headed, because I can tell you personally, when I lose a game without using defensive cooldowns, I am very hard on myself. But here we go. The gates have opened.
It can happen, though. It's a game like World of Warcraft. Sometimes people crit, sometimes people hit really hard, and sometimes it just happens. You need to take it easy on yourself. I know from experience, and I mean, they just need to play like they normally would. Obviously, they're all very good players. They're capable of using their defensive cooldowns. Just a little bit of a misplay. Mageiden immediately pulling that Icy Veins, though. Supatease already in that Deep Sheep. This is the opener they want. Much better than last game. Tony Jr. actually in a lot of trouble. Supatease getting DR Polymorph. Once again, the silence coming out from Tony Jr. Fear onto Supatease. Tony Jr. actually trinketing that silence to get the Tremor onto Supatease. Supatease actually using that Nature's Vigil, too, to throw out those big hots onto Tony Jr. Supatease decides to get offensive, pushing in for the Bash Cyclone. Xaryu actually doing an excellent job in gripping Felorea out of line of sight. Mageiden on the back foot a little bit, but Felorea is just going to blow that Avenging Wrath, and he's going to be able to top off Mageiden and Xaryu quite easily. I think if he can get the cast off, at least the Hodge onto Tony Jr. Supatease pre-barked that. He's in bear form, just chilling, knocks off Xaryu, using that Typhoon to his advantage. And now Zaryu's going to have to play catch-up, waddle up to the top of the bridge. The triple shockwave coming out from Lossa onto this Godcomp, and already both teams coming out strong.
Yeah, Lossa always on point with those peels, man, especially with his fears, really just stopping the setups from this RMPally Godcomp whenever it's available here. And Tony from the Bronx is just sitting pretty. Supatease in that full stealth. He's not coming out, but that's the devouring play going out into Tony. That's going to force the shamanistic rage. Supatease now being forced to come out. The double shockwave on both the DPS once again coming out from Lossa. Mageiden getting chunked down to 60% health here. Felorea now into that full bash. He's going to freedom it up, but there's no follow-up CC on top of that, but Mageiden is taking so much damage, but they want to switch it around. Horrify onto Tony Jr. into the full Hodge. Supatease in that deep freeze into the full ring. He doesn't have Shaman range available for 30 more seconds. This could be it right here, right now. Supatease doesn't have a trinket. Into the full fear. Supa is in that full fear. The silence going out onto Tony Jr., but Supatease is gonna make it in time to get that Nature Swiftness Iron Bark off onto Tony Jr. And now it's back onto for mecah as everyone is dipping lower and lower. The triple shockwave coming out. Xaryu being forced to go into that dispersion from Lossa's crazy amount of damage.
Yeah, Xaryu using his disperse early there. Actually, now Mageiden down to 16% HP, having to use Ice Block, and this Turbo Cleave has all the pressure right now. That was Tony Jr.'s Ascendant, so Felorea has his wings up for another 24 seconds, but he can't get those heals off. He's into a full shockwave. He does have his bubble available. Save of the Light actually proccing onto Felorea. Lossa wreck storming everything right now. The bop goes out onto Xaryu. Felorea doing everything he can to top off his team, but they need to try to turn it around onto Tony Jr. They're going to continue to be on the back foot. Right now, Supatease has his Vigil Hots on his entire team. They're feeling very, very safe. Felorea is able to get off those casts and top off his team for the meantime, but he does get interrupted on that Holy Light. Supatease pushing in for the bash, trying to get the clone out, but Xaryu's going to fear him up on that. The silence onto Tony Jr., so he can't get out that Tremor, but he eventually does, getting Supatease out of that fear. Xaryu in a little bit of trouble now. Now Felorea doesn't have his wings for quite some time. Actually getting cloned up by Supatease. Beautiful clones coming out from Supatease. Xaryu down to 19% HP. Saved by the Light proccing. Actually getting bop again. Felorea has no cooldowns left. His second is bubble. Xaryu has a trinket and his disperse coming up in around a minute. But will they be able to hold on? Mageiden blowing his Icy Veins. Mageiden also has no blocks available to him for quite some time, so he could be in a little bit of trouble. Tony Jr. purging off that Icy Veins immediately, so Mageiden's not going to have that up. This double shockwave coming out. Xaryu down to 34% HP, 27% HP. Can he survive? Felorea getting out some casts, getting some heals on him. Supatease actually getting switched onto right now. Has the Bark Skin up. Will he be able to survive? Looks like he's going to be okay. Gets silenced up in bear form with that Bark Skin. Now Felorea into the bash. Supatease can get this full clone. This might end up being Felorea's bubble. Xaryu trying to get away. Felorea having to use that bubble as well as the Avenging Wrath. But beautiful clone by Supatease onto Xaryu, denying all those incoming heals. Felorea can't get the hots off. Finally catches a huge execution sentence onto Xaryu. That was a beautifully cloned, beautifully timed clone by Supatease there. And now Felorea still has his wings up for another 10 seconds. Godcomp will be able to survive for now. Xaryu has that disperse up. Mageiden no block for another minute. They're going on to Tony Jr. The full Hodge onto him. Ring of Frost full onto Supatease. Tony Jr. going to have to use that Shaman, and he's going to survive because of that. Supatease still has Vigil up for a little while longer. Going to be able to get some additional healing onto Tony Jr. because of that. And amazingly, both teams have stabilized.
Somehow, man, and we're not even in dampening yet. That being said, we're close to it. Xaryu now, the kill target again. Supatease caught into that full fear, though. Tony Jr.'s silence. He's going to tremor to Supa out of that, but the Iron Bark's going to come up right before Supa is put into that deep freeze, and Tony Jr. is going to be completely fine. Xaryu, on the other hand, might not be. Felorea's not caught into any CC, but he does get sheared up, and then he gets bashed out of it. Mageiden actually eating his own full polymorph reflected back onto him. Felorea put into that full cycle, and Mageiden into the Hex. The cross CC from this turbo is crazy. The triple shockwave coming out. Xaryu being forced to use that dispersion, but I don't think he needed to, as Felorea was caught into that DR CC. But Xaryu going to press that dispersion button regardless. Deep freeze goes out onto Lossa, or onto Supatease. Tony Jr. now taking a bunch of damage. Supatease caught into that full ring. They want to get offensive onto him, but this Godcomp is just playing so defensive because they have to. Xaryu at 50% health here. Save of the Light already has procced and can't proc for a little bit longer. Felorea now caught into that full cyclone. Xaryu does not have a disperse. He's at 20% health here. He's just going to get executed, and Tony from the Bronx coming in strong will go to the finals.
I think Xaryu used his disperse a little bit early there, but that's what happens when you don't use your defensive cooldowns. It gets scary. You don't want to get caught on global. You don't want to not use it, so sometimes you just use it a little bit too early. And like you said, it was just a DR shockwave on the Felorea when he was at 40% HP when he used it, so it might have ended up biting him in the butt and costing him the game. But this Turbo Cleave showing that this is a very difficult matchup for this Godcomp to actually overcome.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. That was a fantastic series coming out from both of these teams. I'm really excited to see them play again, if they do. But there it is. Supatease's team going. Tony from the Bronx, they're going to the finals, man. That is very, very exciting stuff. Let's go take a look at who's coming up next. Oh, man. This up next, Ven. Season